Rascalia Christian Apologetics Ministry. This is the second part of a three-part response to Bill Maher's movie Religulous. In the first part, we talked about some introductory materials, as well as the fact he has no working understanding of the Christian faith. The third part, we will look at a critique of some of his actual arguments and give a conclusion. Here, we will talk about the interview and some of the errors he has within the films. So let's take a look at those interviews. The first people he talked to in the film were at the Trucker Chapel. This is a small building, it looked like a converted trailer, that some people use as a church. It's clear that no one in the church has gotten any theological training or has any credentials. You may also tell of the building, and by the clothes people wore, that it's not the most financially rich institution. They're not able to pay for a lot of resources and send people off for education. Bill Maher knew this when he was coming in, and he decided to interview truckers. Now, there's nothing wrong with truckers, but they are just not theologically trained. And there are many times he just talked over them and laughed at them. He chose these people to bash first in regards to Christianity. Next, he talked with the dishonest televangelist. His name was Jeremiah Cummings with the Amazing Life World Outreach. This preacher obviously lived the rich Christian life, probably living off the tithes and offerings of his people. When asked what he should be called, the pastor said, "Call me doctor." Now, it's true that this man has no theological training, no doctorate, no credentials at all. So that just shows the type of person Bill Maher chose to interview. Someone here who has no training and who is dishonest right off the bat. Bill criticizes him, as I would too, for his financial practices. But then he seemingly attempts to lump this man with all of Christianity. Now, I would agree that these televangelists are living by false means and are teaching false doctrines. But the best argument that Bill Maher can make is that he is wrong, not that all of Christianity is corrupt. And ironically, the best response to Bill Maher at this point is to talk about the people at the Truck Chapel, who I just talked about, who didn't live off the tithes and offering in grandiose means. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you, but there actually are honest Christian preachers out there. They're out there believing the message of Christ can save, and not just trying to take all the money from people who show up at their doors. So too often I've heard people critique religions because they're just in it to make money. This claim falls flat on its face simply because of the humble lives that many preachers actually live. Now, other people he interviews are at the Creation Museum and the Holy Land Experience Museum. A lot of the time is spent with the guest, who are there to enjoy the attractions, not to be drilled in their theology. He does, though, interview a couple of the actors, the man who plays Jesus in the Holy Land Experience, and Ken Ham at the Creation Museum. Neither of these interviews were done fairly, and at several times Bill just laughs at him. Another interview is with Senator Mark Pryor. Mr. Pryor is an elected state official. He's not a theologian or a scientist. To grill the senator on theological and scientific questions is unfair and unbalanced. It would be like asking Bill Maher to talk about quantum mechanics on the spot. In other areas, he talks with Catholic priests and others, but they seem to be just as much or more liberal than Bill Maher himself, so he just agrees with them and has a good laugh. Now, my response to this is actually twofold. Like I already said, this just shows Bill Maher to be a poor researcher and an unfair reporter. He interviews people who just could not give an answer to the questions he asked. Then he groups these individuals with everyone. This is unbalanced. If Bill Maher had any real concern for the truth, he would have done this differently. This alone is enough to show the anti-intellectual nature of this film. But the second point I'd like to make is actually the ignorance of the believers. Bill, in fact, did do a great job showing us that Christians are often caught flat-footed, and they're unable to give a response for the hope we have in Christ. We can be shown to be inconsistent, illogical, and at worst, laughable. A couple of the examples is the guy who plays Jesus in the Holy Land Experience Museum attempts to explain the Trinity, and he gives the common, God is like water, he can be solid, liquid, or gas. Besides the irrationality of this argument, and that it actually teaches modalism, it obviously did not impress Bill Maher one bit. Another one is the store owner, who is an ex-Jew for Jesus. He could not give an answer to the if Santa is absurd, then God is absurd too argument that Bill Maher makes. One final and yet humorous example is when the senator was caught, in his own words, saying the senators do not need to have a IQ, essentially proving Bill Maher's point that he was trying to make. Bill Maher seems to be the most fair with those he's already agreed with, like the two ex-Mormons, or Dr. Andrew Newberg of the book Why We Believe What We Believe. This is just a poor example of scholarship, if it was even attempted to be such. So this movie is intended to be a call to arms for atheists and agnostics. I should act likewise for the Christians as well. This movie should be a call to arms for us Christians to learn and grow and give a better defense for our faith. This movie just capitalizes off Christian ignorance at every turn, and that should not be as easy as Bill Maher seemingly made it out to be. So us Christians should stand up and be ready to answer these objections. And so let's not Bill Maher only inspire the unbelievers, but also us Christians as well, so we're not typecast as anti-intellectual. Now, let's look at some of the more specifics of the movie. Bill Maher is simply ignorant when it comes to biblical theology, as we discussed in the first part. He denies original sin. And he has another mistake where he's talking to two individuals about homosexuality. One is an ex-gay who came to faith in Christ, and the other one is a liberal Christian who claims that homosexuality is not in the Bible at all. Bill seemingly agrees with the liberal Christian, whereas I can quickly point to Romans 1 and 1 Timothy 6 to show that homosexuality is discussed in the biblical Testament. Also, at several other points in the film, Bill Maher is interviewing Dr. Andrew Newberg. The irony here is that Bill edited the film in such a way that it made Dr. Newberg say something that he did not mean to say. In fact, since the release of the film, Dr. Newberg has come out and criticized the movie for taking his quotes out of context, and he disagreed with the idea that Bill Maher tried to say that all Christians or all believers in God just has a mental illness. He also accused Bill Maher of spin. In the interview with Dr. Francis Collins, the Christian and former head of the Human Genome Project, instead of asking questions in regards to his field of biology and science, he skips around asking questions about history and for historical evidence of Jesus Christ. Bill Maher also edited the interview in such a way that any point he was trying to make was simply lost. For a doctor of biology to be cut off and cut out when he's attempting to explain the complexity of life is just not scholarly. Then to take him to an area of study where he has not focused is just unfair. Bill Maher also has the idea that evolution is a one-sided argument. True, I would agree. Only about 5% of all scientists actually don't believe in evolution. Many more have questions about it, but closer to 40% actually believe that God guided evolution. Now, to say that is actually a far cry than saying that you have to be an unbeliever, you have to be atheist or agnostic if you're rationalistic or scientific. But one plus side of this movie is when Bill Maher is discussing Scientology and Mormonism, it seems to me that he actually represents these two faiths, although in an extremely rude fashion. But this does make me wonder. I've heard stories of Scientologists suing Christian groups. Will they now sue Bill Maher for the breach of copyright they accuse others of? So this is the end of our second part. Please look forward to the third part, and if you have not seen the first part, please go back and watch it. Thanks for watching, and God bless.